Hello, and welcome to the Northwood Podcast. My name is Heath Jones, and I'm the senior pastor of Northwood Christian Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. If you'd like to learn more about Northwood, please visit our website at indyncc.org. That's indncc.org. Or you can find us by searching for us on Facebook by typing Northwood Christian Church and then probably Indianapolis, just to be sure that we are the ones who pop up. I should also give a shout out to allindianapodcastnetwork.com for hosting this podcast, as well as dozens of other Indiana based podcasts, which you should check out. Today, we'll be talking about the subject of scarcity. That is, this feeling that there simply aren't enough resources in the world to go around for us and for those who have need of them. And this feeling keeps us hoarding the perceived little that we do have, or the de facto little that we do have in some cases, and it keeps us from reaching out to those who need help. So we're going to get there by way of a well-worn story from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6. But before we do, here are some ads. And we're back. As I said, we're going to be considering a story from Mark chapter 6, more specifically verses 30 through 56. And it goes: The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away to a deserted place, all by yourselves, and rest for a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" And he said to them, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." When they had found out, they said, 5, and 2 fish. Then he ordered them to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and of fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all, and all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. Those who had eaten the loaves numbered 5,000 men. I'd like to tell you one of Booker T. Washington's favorite stories. He was the great African American educator, author, orator, and advisor to presidents even, and he was fond of telling this story. And this is the story as it has been written down by the Reverend Dr. Alice McKenzie, and it goes: A ship, lost at sea in the Atlantic Ocean along the northern coast of Southern America for many days, suddenly sighted a friendly vessel. From the mast of the unfortunate vessel came the signals, "Water, water, we die of thirst." The answer from the friendly vessel came back at once, "Cast down your bucket where you are." A second time the signal, "Water, send us water," from the distressed vessel, and was answered again, "Cast down your bucket where you are." A third and fourth signal for water was again answered, "Cast down your bucket where you are." The captain of the distressed vessel, at last heeding the injunction, cast down his bucket. It came up full of fresh, sparkling water from the mouth of the Amazon River, which extends miles out into the ocean in what is called the River Sea. In this story, a ship full of people had an urgent need for fresh water, an urgent need that needed to be filled for them to even stay alive. And what they did not know was that it was closer at hand than they ever could have or did in fact suspect. They're not the only ones. One day, thousands of years ago, 12 persons were tasked with feeding thousands of people. And Jesus turned to the 12 and said, "You feed them." And the disciples pushed back. And the gist of their response can be summarized in 2 words: with what? With what will we feed them? And this question still haunts us today. For the world is still filled with people in desperate need. And we'd like to meet those needs. After all, we're nice people. But we are stymied by this question: is there enough to go around? And many would say no. Is there enough to go around? This is the question I'd like to explore today. At the beginning of this reading from the Gospel of Mark is an account of how the disciples have just returned from their own missions, during which they did all sorts of things that Jesus had done up to this point. And so now Jesus and the disciples are trying to get away after a long job well done. And who can blame them? They've been giving so much of themselves for the life of the world. And the text reads that they were in such high demand that they didn't even have time to eat. The people sought them out so desperately that they didn't even have enough time to eat. So Jesus recommended that they all make off by boat to some deserted place for a little quiet, a little rest, some time alone. Good advice, desperately needed. Verse 33 reads, "Now many saw them going and recognized them." So they're off to get some rest and they're spotted. The text goes on to say, "And they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them," he being Jesus. "And he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things." This text paints a picture of a people who are in desperate need for the realm of God, that place where justice is achieved, where the hungry have food, where the sick are healed, where those who need shelter have it, and where things are as they should be, basically. And Jesus claimed to bring this realm with him, and he preached about how its coming was imminent. And notice, now the disciples bring it with them as well. That's where the story picks up. But is there enough of that to go around? And this is the question that faces the weary, worn disciples after they have already given so much. And this question will narrow its focus before the day is done in a very specific way. As the day wore on, the disciples turned to Jesus and mentioned that the time is late and that the people should probably be dismissed to go and procure food for themselves. This is said by the very ones who lately haven't had time to eat themselves because, and this is very important not to forget, because they have been caring for these people alongside Jesus. So now it would seem they're tapped out. There is not enough to go around. They don't have enough, simply put. So to answer the question posed earlier, no, emphatically no. There is not enough. Not enough energy, time, and in this instance, food, for the people are hungry. And then Jesus says, "You feed them." And one of them responds, "What, are we supposed to go and spend 200 denarii on food?" Now, 1 denarii was equal to 1 day's wage, so let me rephrase the disciples' question. Do you want me to go and spend almost 7 months' wages on food? No, let me repeat the disciples' question in such a way as to get to its heart. Basically, the question is, with what? Feed them with what? Jesus says, frustrating answer, "What have you got?" They go and look and they respond, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Probably they should have just given up at that point. Churches possessing far more have made the decision to pack up shop and shutter their doors. Who can blame them? This question about resources is a big one. Feed the world with what? Address the needs of the world with what? Change the world for good? Yeah, with what army? There is so much to be done. How can we, with the little that we have, do anything to change the tides? The problems are too large, too complex, too overwhelming. And I don't know if you've felt it as you've tried to come to terms with the problems in the world. You take poverty, violence, hatred. You consider how our institutions are motivated by their own self-preservation and greed, churches included. Perhaps you've lamented the money spent on war making which is lamentably all too profitable. And then Jesus. Jesus looks at all of this on the crowd and has great compassion on us all because we are like sheep without a shepherd. And the text reads that after he saw the crowd, he, out of an abundance of compassion, began to teach them many things. If only there were someone to, quote unquote, teach us many things in these modern times to engage our complex modern problems. So I turn to the church and ask, who is there? A body of Christ? Body of Christ, who is there? And again, we have said through the centuries, it's you, it's us. And to which I respond, that's too much. With what? The question of the disciples, with what? It's just too much. Feed them with what? The spiritual truth of the story can be summarized as follows. Here's the truth of the story. With what? To answer the question. When the world is on fire, it does no good to lament the lack of fire hoses, ladders, and professional equipment. In the meantime, you take the bucket you found in the garage and the measly garden hose connected to the spigot on the side of your house, and you get to work. You get to work with what you have. The disciples discovered that day, when all was said and done, that they possessed enough to feed thousands. Call it a miracle, call it perspective, call it the mysterious ways of God, but I've seen it done. People taking steps out in faith with the little that they think they have, only to discover that there is enough to go around in the end. You let down the bucket at the base of the Amazon, and you discover there is more fresh water there than you ever knew, enough to quench your thirst and then some. But you cannot see it. Therein lies the problem. What will we feed them with? Well, look around you. We've got it. More than enough to go around. Reverend Dr. Alice McKenzie writes, sometimes we underestimate others' value and contributions only to realize them after the fact. We consign elderly relatives to the has-been bin, not realizing the rich resource of wisdom their stories can yield for us and ours. We dismiss our current circumstances, thinking the grass will always be greener in another place, job, relationship, or church. Perhaps we underestimate our gifts and ourselves. But what if, within the confines of our situations, within the gifts and abilities of people around us, within our own life stories and buried family heritage, there are untold riches, untapped resources of wisdom, energy, and inspiration? Then the message of this passage would be, cast down your buckets where you are and find the human resources you didn't realize were there. End quote. And now I'm speaking to my church and to the church at large. Let's not look into the future lamenting what we lack, what we wish that we had, the people, the resources. We are haunted by a past when, let's face it, we probably had more than we knew what to do with. Now, by contrast, we feel so small, but we are not. We are enough. Our spiritual heritage contains one story after another where deserts give way to living water. One small boy with a slingshot and some stones defeats a giant. Stories like the one where a man goes into Egypt and brings an empire to its knees. Oh, he brought his brother. Fine, 2 men. Where a widow needs a certain sum of money to keep her children out of enslavement and discovers she has enough. I'd like to read you that story before we conclude. The story is found in 2 Kings, verses 1 through 7, and it goes, one of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, also a prophet, your servant, my husband, has died. You know that your servant feared the Lord. Now the creditor is coming to take my 2 children as his slaves. Parenthetical insert, here is a hopeless situation. Picking up the story. Elisha asked her, "What can I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" She said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Then he said, "Go and borrow empty containers from everyone, from all your neighbors. Do not get just a few. Then go in and shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour oil into all these containers. Set the full ones to one side." So she left. After she had shut the door behind her and her sons, they kept bringing her containers, and she kept pouring. When they were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another container." But he replied, "There aren't any more." Then the oil stopped. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debt. You and your sons can live on the rest." Does this sound familiar? It should. The story from the Gospel of Mark of those disciples feeding the thousands of persons there that day echoes it, because it comes from the same tradition, cut from the same cloth. And this is our tradition, which tells of persons of faith who set out with nothing but a word of good news on their lips and the clothes on their backs. And we still tell their stories today. 5 loaves and 2 fish. They all ate and were filled. That's all it took that day. So I'll say to my church, Northwood Christian Church, and every other church besides, we have enough to go around, even if what we've got doesn't seem like much. I'll go down the street right now and buy 5 loaves of bread, if that's what it takes. Fish too? Why, sure, I'll take them on sale. My point is, there is enough here to change the world and rewrite history. The question becomes, will we take what we've got in hand and feed a starving world? This has been the Northwood Podcast. As I said at the beginning, my name is Heath Jones. And if you'd like to learn more about Northwood, please visit our website at indiencc.org or look us up on Facebook by searching for Northwood Christian Church, Indianapolis. Before we go, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to this podcast by way of whatever platform you listen. And also, if you have the time, please leave a review. We'd love to hear from you. Also, please check out the other podcasts made possible by All Indiana Podcast Network. Until next time, be well.